Hello, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Manns, and I'd like to welcome you to the April 4th Coalition Show. This is the October 31st, 2022 edition of the show, and it is week 426 since the closing of the North Adams Regional Hospital. The April 4th Coalition's mission statement is, "We are for workers' rights and collective bargaining rights and are against tax breaks for the rich corporations who ship our jobs overseas. We support all the articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but as is our custom, we put the emphasis on Article 23 at the start of the show." Dick, you want 1 and 2?
Yes, please. Number 1, everyone has the right to work, to free choice of employment, to just and favorable conditions of work, and protection against unemployment. Number 2, everyone, without any discrimination, has the right to equal pay for equal work.
Number 3, everyone who works has the right to just and favorable remuneration, ensuring for himself or herself and his or her family an existence worthy of human dignity and supplemented, if necessary, by other means of social protection. Number 4, everyone has the right to form and join trade unions for the protection of her or his interests. And as is common, we give a thank you and a shout out to the community radio station for airing the audio portion of our show. And I believe Michael Putnam is still the director, and he does that Fridays at 6 p.m. And of course, we thank David Fabiano, who helps us produce our show every Monday. So thank you. And we decided, because we were so heavy last week with dark money and everything, that we would be nice and go a little light at the start of this show.
Yeah,
So we're going to talk about union-made things for Halloween.
Yeah, so we have a list that we can put up, and then we can.
There we go. There's the list.
And we can read from it right here, and
Okay.
So it's Annabelle Candy Company.
Right.
They have Heba Zeba Peanuts and Big Hunk and Rocky Road S'mores and
Ooh.
Then there's the American Licorice, Red Vines Black Licorice, Red Vines Ropes, all flavors.
Mm-hmm.
Then they have Bachman's, and it's Jack Cheese Curls, Keystone Party Mix, and pretzels.
Okay, and I get Ferrero apparently,
Yeah.
which has Baby Ruth, Butterfinger, Laffy Taffy, and Nestle Crunch. That's a surprise.
Yeah.
And Ghirardelli chocolate.
It didn't make the list.
It didn't show up there, but
it's on the
Ghirardelli.
list.
But
Yeah.
it's on the list on your phone from the FLCIO website, which does chocolate squares, all filled and non-filled, chocolate bars, all filled and non-filled,
Yeah.
and chocolate chips. And moving on to Hershey products, which is my third. They do Hershey Kisses, milk chocolate, candy cane, cookies and cream, white chocolate, special dark chocolate, Hershey's milk chocolate bars, Hershey's milk chocolate with almond bars, Hershey nuggets, Hershey's chocolates, Santa Claus shaped chocolates, and hugs. And Hershey, of course, is the one who built the town in Pennsylvania so
Yes.
that his workers could live right next to the factory. Do you want Pearson's?
Yeah, okay, and then there's, let's see, Pearson's Candy, Mint Patties, Nut Goodle, and Salt Nut Rolls. Then there's Scanza Chocolates, Boston Baked Beans, Chocolate Cherries, Jawbreakers, Jordan Almonds, Limoncello Almonds. Then there's C's Candies,
Yeah.
assorted chocolates, brittles and taffies, candy bars, lollipops, nuts and chews, and truffles. And then what's not on that list also is Tootsie Roll Industries, is listed on the website.
All right.
With all the Tootsie Pops in all sizes and flavors, and Tootsie Rolls, all sizes and flavors. Then the last one, Wilbur Chocolate. I don't know if Mike's related to that, Mike
we'll
Wilbur.
have to ask him
But anyway,
sometime
it's
if Mike
called
is.
Peter's Caramels.
Peter's
Yeah.
Caramels. Okay.
So,
Cool.
thank
So-
you. And we also had a in our union newsletter, the label letter, it says Starbucks union-made coffee. Union, yes, you can get a union-made fall pumpkin spice latte,
Cool.
It lists the following is a list of states with unionized Starbucks stores as of August 15th, 2022. At the time, there are 209 stores that have voted to unionize and 76 additional stores with pending union elections. And you can go on the website and you can see them all. Massachusetts has one in Gardner, 4 in Boston, and Westford, Brookline, Worcester, Waban, Watertown, Brighton, and Alston. Hopefully the new
All
one
in
that's
the
coming
eastern
to
end of the
town,
state. Hopefully
we can
they
have
move
that
out
one
west.
unionized.
So Pittsfield would be nice to be
Yes.
unionized.
Well, we're going to do a little backtracking.
So now we're going to backtrack because we promised you last week there were like 4 videos we had, but we cut one on the dark money
Yeah.
issue and voting and election, how it's influencing people. It's because it happened to be 9 minutes long, so
Yeah.
we're going
Yeah.
to show you that now.
That's Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, and it's a couple years old. It's when Amy Conant, Supreme Court Justice Amy Conant Bryant was
Barrett?
I'm sorry, was getting her nomination process, and he took the time to explain about dark money and its influence on our courts. And so why don't we watch that, and then maybe we can have some comments after.
Okay.
This is to me, pretty big deal. I've never seen this around any court that I've ever been involved with, where there's this much dark money and this much influence being used. Here's how the Washington Post summed it up. This is a conservative activist behind-the-scenes campaign to remake the nation's courts, and it's a $250 million dark money operation. $250 million is a lot of money to spend if you're not getting anything for it. So that raises the question, what are they getting for it? Well, I showed the slide earlier on the Affordable Care Act and on Obergefell and on Roe versus Wade. That's where they lost. But with another judge, that could change. That's where the contest is. That's where the Republican Party platform tells us to look at how they want judges to rule, to reverse Roe, to reverse the Obamacare cases, and to reverse Obergefell and take away gay marriage. That is their stated objective and plan. Why not take them at their word? But there's another piece of it, and that is not what's ahead of us, but what's behind us. What's behind us is now 80 cases, Mr. Chairman, 80 cases under Chief Justice Roberts that have these characteristics. One, they were decided 5-4 by a bare majority. Two, the 5-4 majority was partisan in the sense that not one Democratic appointee joined the 5. I refer to that group as the Roberts 5. It changes a little bit, as with Justice Scalia's death, for instance, but there's been a steady Roberts 5 that has delivered now 80 of these decisions. And the last characteristic of them is that there is an identifiable Republican donor interest in those cases. And in every single case, that donor interest won. It was an 80-0, 5-4 partisan rout, ransacking. And it's important to look at where those cases went, because they're not about big public issues like getting rid of the Affordable Care Act, undoing Roe versus Wade, and undoing same-sex marriage. They're about power. And if you look at those 80 decisions, they fall into 4 categories over and over and over again. 1, unlimited and dark money in politics. Citizens United is the famous one, but it's continued since with McCutcheon, and we've got one coming up now. Always the 5 for unlimited money in politics, never protecting against dark money in politics, despite the fact that they said it was going to be transparent. And who wins when you allow unlimited dark money in politics? A very small group. The ones who have unlimited money to spend and a motive to spend it in politics. They win, everybody else loses. And if you're looking at who might be behind this, let's talk about people with unlimited money to spend and a motive to do it. We'll see how that goes. Next, knock the civil jury down. Whittle it down to a nub. The civil jury was in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights, in our darn Declaration of Independence. But it's annoying to big corporate powers, because you can swagger your way as a big corporate power through Congress. You can go and tell the president you put money into to elect what to do. He'll put your stooges at the EPA. It's all great until you get to the civil jury. Because they have an obligation, as you know, Judge Barrett, they have an obligation under the law to be fair to both parties, irrespective of their size. You can't bribe them. You're not allowed to. It's a crime to tamper with a jury. It's standard practice to tamper with Congress. And they make decisions based on the law. If you're used to being the boss and swaggering your way around the political side, you don't want to be answerable before a jury. And so one after another, these 85-4 decisions have knocked down, whittled away at the civil jury, a great American institution. Third, first was unlimited dark money. Second was demean and diminish the civil jury. Third is weaken regulatory agencies. A lot of this money, I'm convinced, is polluter money. The Coke Industries is a polluter. The fossil fuel industry is a polluter. Who else would be putting buckets of money into this and wanting to hide who they are behind donors' trust or other schemes? And what if you're a big polluter, what do you want? You want weak regulatory agencies. You want ones that you can box up and run over to Congress and get your friends to fix things for you in Congress. Over and over and over again, these decisions are targeted at regulatory agencies to weaken their independence and weaken their strength. And if you're a big polluter, a weak regulatory agency is your idea of a good day. And the last thing is in politics, in voting. Why on earth the court made the decision a factual decision, not something appellate courts are ordinarily supposed to make, as I understand it, Judge Barrett. The factual decision that nobody needed to worry about minority voters in pre-clearance states being discriminated against or that legislators would try to knock back their ability to vote. These five made that finding in Shelby County against bipartisan legislation from both houses of Congress, hugely passed on no factual record. They just decided that that was a problem that was over. On no record, with no basis, because it got them to the result that we then saw. What followed? State after state after state passed voter suppression laws. One so badly targeting African Americans that the two courts said it was surgically tailored to get after minority voters. And gerrymandering, the other great control. Bulk gerrymandering, where you go into a state, like the Red Map Project did in Ohio and Pennsylvania, and you pack Democrats so tightly into a few districts that all the others become Republican majority districts. And in those states, you send a delegation to Congress that has a huge majority of Republican members, like 13-5, as I recall, in a state where the party of the five, actually won the popular vote. You've sent a delegation to Congress that is out of step with the popular vote of that state, and court after court figured out how to solve that, and the Supreme Court said, nope, 5-4 again, nope, we're not going to take an interest in that question. In all these areas where it's about political power for big special interests and people who want to fund campaigns and people who want to get their way through politics without actually showing up, doing it behind donors' trust and other groups, doing it through these schemes, over and over and over again, you see the same thing. 80 decisions, Judge Barrett. 80 decisions, an 80-0 sweep. I don't think you've tried cases, but some cases, the issue is bias and discrimination. And if you're making a bias case, as a trial lawyer, Lindsey Graham is a hell of a good trial lawyer. If he wanted to make a bias case, Dick Durbin's a hell of a good trial lawyer. If they wanted to make a bias case and they could show an 80-0 pattern, A, that's admissible, and B, I'd love to make that argument to the jury. I'd be really hard-pressed to be the lawyer saying, no, 80-0 is just a bunch of flukes. All 5-4, all partisan, all this way. So something is not right around the court. And dark money has a lot to do with it. Special interests have a lot to do with it. Donors Trust and whoever's hiding behind Donors Trust has a lot to do with it. And the Bradley Foundation orchestrating its amici over at the court has a lot to do with it.
And that was 2 years ago you made that
Yes.
case?
Yeah, she
Wow.
was appointed just
Correct.
before the vote. People were voting already when she was
When she was
confirmed.
appointed, right, because they were fairly sure Trump wasn't going to be successful.
Right, and
So
the
they
year
rushed it
before,
through.
there was a Supreme Court open in, I think it was
It was
the
Lo-
November prior, I mean, the February prior to the election.
election.
And they said, oh, no, we can't have anybody.
Right, that was the previous, that was Obama. It's too
Yeah.
close, we gotta let the people decide, and they're
Yeah.
gonna decide by who they pick for president,
And
and
they
it
said,
was
we're
like,
already voting in the primaries, and they wouldn't even give them a hearing.
right, that
so-
was the one for Merrick
yeah,
Garland, which is how
yeah.
he ended up being the Attorney General instead of on the Supreme Court,
Yeah.
and shifting the balance one way or the
Yeah.
other way.
Yeah.
Oh,
it
yes,
just-
no, it's
so
absolutely
There's two
amazing.
seats that were twisted. that-
Biden's probably gonna go 4 years and not appoint a single justice.
Well, if we don't vote for
No, we
a
don't.
Democratic Senate, then he won't even get to do it. It's at that point where they won't allow
They won't let
a
any, even
president,
if
they
he
won't
was.
follow the Constitution.
should-
They won't
Yeah,
allow a
even
president
if
to
he's lucky
nominate.
enough to win a second term, they
Yeah.
probably won't. They'll just say, oh, no, we're in control of the Senate.
If they
We're-
are.
We are the ones who get to confirm them. You just get to name them.
And that isn't, that question hasn't been answered yet. But
No, it hasn't
this
been,
dark
and-
money issue is really, the Washington Post did an article and they listed the individual donors. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try to get it up on the screen next week. But, it lists, the individual donors and how much they donated by name, and then what political party they supported.
Mm-hmm.
So the highest one was George Soros, who was a Democrat. He's a hedge fund founder. He donated $128 million. The second one is a Republican, Elizabeth and Richard Neuheim. They had $70 million. Then the third one is a Republican, Ken Griffith, $65.9 million. The fourth one, Republican, Jeffrey Yass, $48.2 million. The fifth one was Sam Blackman-Fried, and he had $39 million. He was a cryptocurrency executive. And then the sixth one, Republican, Steve Schwartzman, $32.7 million. The seventh one, Timmy Mellon, guy who owns our railroad down there, on the trains down there.
Right.
He gave $32.5 million
Million.
in donations to the Republicans.
Number eight.
Larry Ellison, number 8, $31 million. And then number 9, Peter Thiel, $30 million to the Republicans. And number 10, Republican Patrick and Shirley Ryan, $26.6 million.
So 9 out of 10, or
Yeah.
at least 8 out of 10.
Yes.
Okay,
And then-
you didn't say who the Bitcoin one was, but
Yeah, he was a Democrat.
he was a Democrat, so 8 out of 10.
Then the top 10 organizations is One Nation. It was 53, it was Republican. It's called One Nation, a nonprofit aligned with the Senate GOP campaign, $53.5 million. Then the second one, organization, is the American Action Network. It's a nonprofit allied with the House GOP, $47.1 million, Republican. Then the third one, the Majority Forward, is a Democratic one, is $30 million. The fourth one, another Democratic one, the United Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners, $27.3 million. The fifth one, Democratic, Fund for Policy Reform, $25 million. Then the sixth one, Koch Industries, $24.3 million, Republican. Seventh one is National Association of Realtors, $22 million to the Republicans. The Democratic one is number 8, League of Conservation Voters. Number 9, Republicans, Stand Together, $15 million. And number 10 was American Votes, $10 million. Leaning.
The list
So,
goes on.
yeah, so
And
we'll try to
that
show
only
it to you
touches the
visually.
ones who are out in the open and visible, correct?
Yes.
It does not touch the ones who hide behind nonprofit names.
Yeah.
We'd have to do a lot of research to figure that out.
Well, that's what the Washington Post was able to provide, but
Yes.
it's a lot of money. It's, when
Oh,
we
it's-
give $20 or $10 to a campaign, it's
Right.
hard to meet that. But talking of voting, though, we have a video with Robert Reich, and he's going to talk about voting down ballot. So it's about 4 minutes long,
Okay.
and we'll talk about that.
Oh, hi. Don't mind me. I'm just voting in this year's election. A lot of people just pay attention to the top of the ballot, the big offices up there, but not me. I pay attention to the down ballot as well, and not just because I'm short. These are important offices. Many of the biggest issues affecting our day-to-day lives are determined by state and local officials who are running for office down here, as well as ballot measures. But these races at the bottom of the ballot often receive less attention and fewer votes than federal positions that appear at the top of your ballot. Why? Well, many people who vote simply don't fill out their entire ballot. It's a serious issue. And I get it. I mean, how can you be expected to know what a comptroller does? Does anyone really know? And you may not be familiar with all of these names, but these state and local government officials are going to be vital for holding on to what we have, protecting many of the rights that extremist Republicans in Washington and the Supreme Court are actively trying to erode. Down ballot races are also critical if we want to advance progressive changes at the state level, like raising the minimum wage, instituting ranked choice voting, inscribing abortion rights into state constitutions, expanding Medicaid, protecting trans youth, making public higher education more affordable. All of these become possible when we pay attention to down ballot races. Control of many state legislatures is often determined down here by a small number of votes that could swing in either direction. Republicans have been focused on state and local races for decades, especially when it comes to funding them. It's long past time for the Democratic Party to do the same. On top of that, ballot roll-off, a phenomenon where people vote for top-of-ticket candidates but then don't vote for down-ballot offices, has been a huge problem for Democrats as of late in key battleground states. A recent analysis of presidential election results from 10 swing states, dating back to 2012, showed that in contested races, the Democratic presidential nominee at the top of the ticket received more votes 87% of the time compared to Democratic state legislative candidates at the bottom of the ballot. On the flip side, the Republican nominee for president received more votes than Republican state legislative candidates just 45% of the time. Folks, it's not enough to just vote for president or even governor and call it a day. As we have seen, the consequences of doing so are enormous. So here are a few things you can do to get prepared to vote down ballot. Get your ballot early. Request a sample ballot from your local election office. Take it home and familiarize yourself with it. Next, research all down ballot candidates. There's some great organizations to guide you. Sister District, the States Project, Bolts Magazine, and People's Action are just a few. I've linked to them below, but feel free to leave a comment with other local resources you found helpful. Lastly, connect with your friends and share this information. Get them to vote down ballot too. Research shows that texting a friend about voting increases turnout. We don't win overnight. We win by connecting with our communities, paying attention to candidates up and down the ballot, even organizing for them. When it comes to power in America, remember to vote for the little folks down here.
I agree, because at least very much on the local level, you have to vote down ballot. You have to know who you're voting for locally, because they're the ones who are going to affect your local taxes, your education, what school curriculums are, even dealing with, oh God, I lost the thought. Sorry, Dick, it went out the door.
Well, we watched things about the Supreme Court and the court system. They're pushing everything to the states.
Correct.
We're very fortunate, I believe, in Massachusetts that we have good representation in our House and Senate in Massachusetts.
At this point.
And I think we should make sure that we send Paul Mark to be our state
definitely.
senator and John Barrett to be our state representative. They're both endorsed by the AFL-CIO. And,
Oh, definitely. Paul's done banner work in that very
right,
rough district that, he had a difficult district to represent in the first place, and I don't believe he neglected one single town.
Yeah.
Whenever he was out.
right.
He visited every single one in the course of
Right.
his term.
And he started as a union employee with the telephone company and worked his way through law school, and
So
now he's
forth.
representing us. I just, one thing that Robert Reich comment he made about ask for a sample ballot. We're lucky enough in Massachusetts where they send you one. They send you that red book.
They do
And it
send
has-
the red book,
And it
yes.
has all the questions except for number 4.
Yeah, somehow
slipped-
that one missed
that
it.
got in there after, but the AFL-CIO is asking you to vote yes on number 4.
And they do actually send you who all the candidates are as well, so,
Yeah, and
in that red book, so that you know. And
And-
yes, we are fortunate
right,
Massachusetts
and
does
we're
that.
fortunate that, like, I requested a ballot in the mail, and I got mine in the mail. I got my
Mm-hmm.
primary ballot in the mail, so I could sit at home. I got my phone here,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some names that I didn't recognize running for lieutenant governor. So, gee, what am I going to do? So I start looking at their campaign
Info, right.
website, and they list who recommends them, who's endorsed them, and I see if I can recognize some of their names or the organizations. And then I could choose where they lived. Found out that 2 of the people running for lieutenant governor, neither of them won, but they were from Western Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, yes.
Or they had a connection with it. I think the woman was at Smith, went to
Carlisle?
Mount Holyoke College, and the man that was running for lieutenant governor was from Long Meadow. But you can do that research if you get your ballot at home.
Early
Or you can, if you get the sample ballot, you can go through it, do your research, go in with a copy of your sample ballot.
All
and then
marked up
cop-
the way you want.
And
so
then
you
go
don't have
into
to
there
depend
and
on
vote.
memory.
And that other thing about telling your family members and your friends to get out and vote, because we have to do everything we can to take care and cherish this peaceful way that our democracy works. We have a lot of people out there that don't believe in democracy. And we have a Republican Party
That
that a
definitely don't.
majority of them don't believe in democracy.
Nope.
They only believe in democracy if they win.
Correct.
And that's
That's not
how
the way it works,
you know,
unfortunately.
we have, the loyal opposition always concedes to those
Who won.
who won, and we have to get back to that.
And
So-
as a reminder, voting is still going on until Tuesday, November 8th. And so even if you think it's too late to do the mail-in ballot, remember to go out and vote
Yeah.
on
think you
November
can
8th. I
ask-
did the same thing. I
Yeah.
had my mail-in ballot, I filled it out, and I took it to the drop box in Clarksburg
Yeah.
and put it in the box. I thought about putting it in the mail, and I had enough time,
Yeah.
but.
I went
thought-
right to the city clerk's office and handed mine in.
I can't quite do that. They
Can't
had the
help
door
that.
locked.
It helps if you're retired.
Yes.
But, and
Well, at 7 o'clock in the morning, town hall's not open, so I had to
well,
use the
listen,
drop box.
we just have to say power to the people, vote, and,
We'll see you next week.
yes.
There's power in the factory, power in the land, power in the hand of the worker. But it all amounts to nothing if together we don't stand. There is power in our union. Now the lessons of the past were all learned with workers' blood. Mistakes of the bosses we must pay for. From the cities and the farmlands to trenches full